Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday the 9th of July. So starting off today with the indices. I will switch these around, just beware. But looking at the US indices first, the S&P 500, just looking at what's going on here at the moment. So yesterday we did see a little bit more of a continued sell-off at one stage, but closed on a bit of a bounce, and at the moment we're seeing a bit of upside there running through there. Now when I look through the markets, it's often clearer to see it looking at the currencies than it is on the indices here. But well, I suppose in a sense, when you're seeing an index running up, you'd say the risk is back. Risk is back on, and traders are happily trading. Let's have a look at the DAX. DAX, similar situation yesterday, bearish engulfing, horrible candle in terms of often when you see these, if you see a break of the lows, and if we was to see a break of the low later, I would expect further downside on this. It really is a bearish signal there, but at the moment it's catching the bounce. If it doesn't get triggered at the bottom there, well, may not get triggered at all. Looking at the FTSE, not open yet, of course, but looking from yesterday's price action there, again bearish bar, not such a, well, it's still a very horrible bearish bar, engulfed completely the body, at least bearish engulfing. And again, if we was to see that sort of running off south, I would expect further downside, but at the moment it's most likely to open on the upside from what I can see elsewhere. Looking at the CSI 130 or 300, even 130, catching there we are. It put a new low in there. It's putting a bit of a bounce through the Asian session there, and again, a bit more positivity potentially. I still think this market is quite soft with a lower high that sort of sits through there. But if it could, there is. Ooh, no, it's not. It's alright. I was looking to see if there's some sort of divergence. There's not even any divergence there. So anyway, lower highs, lower lows. Still sort of a double lower low with that spike through this morning. So, but as I say, picking up at the moment, and maybe there will be some opportunities. Of course, these can turn around quite quickly shortly after 8 o'clock. It's a fickle old market at this time of day. Actually, whilst I've got this on, it's just to have a look at the news that we've got coming out today. Should always look at these risk events, and today it's we've got Lagarde speaking at 11 a.m. Due to participate in a panel discussion titled "Digitalization." Okay, that shouldn't do too much. It might create a bit of volatility in the old Bitcoin world. We'll see. We'll see on that front if there's discussions going on around sort of currency, cryptos, etc., digital currencies. Might see something there. Aside of that, we've got Bailey speaking. Is he doing exactly the same? Yep, he's there as well. So there's a whole bundle of them. So maybe may see a bit of volatility at 11 o'clock there. Aside of that, though, we didn't have it last week. We got the non-farms effectively, or the employment change for Canada at 1:30. And that'll be the big news this afternoon. G20 meetings are starting. Well, I don't expect anything too much from those, but pre-chat, etc., we do sometimes see a bit of volatility. Right, let's have a look at the currencies and what we're seeing here then. So the bigger picture, looking at the dailies on the euro dollar here, and I mean the big picture is undoubtedly on the downside. In fact, we're down a bit this morning, whereas the other markets are maybe looking a little bit more positive. There's sort of a move a bit south on the euro at the moment. Now when you come down to the 60-minute here, I'm just sort of looking, and I can see that my daily pivot's been hit. It's just finding a bit of support. I could get a bit bullish if it breaks this trend line, so that's what I'm looking for at the moment. If it continues to be consolidating around here, at some stage I'll be looking for a short. If it consolidates and starts breaking down, I'll be looking on the short side. I'm quite open-minded on this, but it's the good thing is it hasn't already gone half its average daily range or anything here. We've got a chance to maybe get in a trade late at some point later this morning, hopefully. So it is a bit of an either or. The downside I quite like in terms of the bigger pictures to the downside, but it proved quite strong yesterday, the euro relatively, and when we saw risk off and this sort of money running into the yen, we also saw money running into the euro. And I might add the Swissy. I'm just going to pop the Swissy. I don't look at the Swissy or trade the Swissy personally. It's no little point often. This is an inverted euro often. Remember, this is US dollar Swissy, but we saw the money coming into the Swissy. Now that's always a sign of scared, people being a bit scared, particularly if you see it. In fact, we saw it on the Swissy, the dollar Swissy, but although the euro was doing quite well, again we saw it there as well. The euro was being, I mean, the Swissy is just like the yen, but possibly a little bit stronger at times. It's seen where money goes when there's doubt. Now these currencies might we could be drawing trend lines across there. They might be running over again this morning. We'll see. And if these start rolling over, okay, the euro might do okay, but some other currencies may not do so well. Talking of which, let's have a look at the pound. The pound had a bit of a torrid day yesterday, but it still hasn't broken its July 2nd of July low at the moment. He says it's been much more choppy. If you look at the sort of the bars as a collective here, and you sort of see that there's a lot of sort of inside bars after a biggish day as an inside bar, etc. I'm just looking at this range here. My preference, if it starts moving with any speed this morning, is to the downside, because that's the trend. However, we could see something more. I'd wait until it closed, I say closed, but got above that 50 MA. May even be worth looking as a horizontal level across here at 37.95 before you sort of start jumping in this, because it just literally fake out of this first thing, maybe even spike above this little high here and then pull back. We see this in markets. It's not a there's a weakness. If you look at it as a wedge, there's a bit of a weakness in the fact that it's pulled down as it has here and put this low in. So anything up there initially might just be a fake out. So just buyer beware, as they say. Goodness. Yen yesterday, the strength carried on, pushed in. It got into the sort of target area I was looking at in the earlier part of the morning. It's bounced since, and again this suggests its risk back on, and the yen at some point may continue in its path and push back up towards these prior highs. But at the moment, I don't want to be a buyer in this dollar yen at this stage. However, it has put higher lows in. I have put this trend line in along the lows there, thinking, well, if it starts selling, there's the line in the sand, which I'm interested in. On the buy side, I'm not that interested in it at the moment, but things might change as the day progresses, maybe even as the morning progresses. But at this stage, even with the higher lows in there, maybe another higher low, and there may just be something that if it pulls back again and starts breaking back, I might be interested in. But at this stage, yen, I'm not doing too much trading on it. Aussie dollar, well, you see it's even weak this morning, but it's just really sold. I'm not surprised at this in a sense. Fundamentally, it wasn't the Reserve Bank of Australia were a bit pessimistic, but they were looking at holding off interest rates for a lot longer. The rush we saw up there earlier in the week there was really on the coattails of the New Zealand dollar, and off it pushed. But it was only fair that it came back down again, especially after the Reserve Bank of Australia gave their thoughts. Anyway, consolidation around these lows. Let's just come down a little bit here. Yeah, I can't do much with it either way at the moment. I'm sort of thinking of trend lines at the lows here and looking for a breakdown, but it might just run into a bit of support. You notice how consolidated it was since 8 o'clock yesterday morning. It's just sort of in this sort of consolidated phase, and I just get a feeling it might just continue to do so, continue to consolidate. Okay, there's the majors there. I've looked at the S&Ps. Let's have a look at the commodities first, and then we'll look at crypto. So commodities wise, let's just come out here. Gold has been having quite a reasonable time. Yesterday at one stage it was pushing up almost to, for me, it didn't seem to be making quite so much sense. Seeing gold, in fact, I was talking about it, I think about 8, 9, what's this, 4 hourly. When this candle was happening yesterday, I did a later update on YouTube here, and I said when it was up here, it looked risky to me, and it did eventually. It sat there for a little while longer into 1 o'clock there, and then started and rolled over. And the moment normally we see the gold selling off a little bit this time of year, and I wouldn't be too shocked if there's a trend line across the lows there if it does start breaking down some more. So it's had its time maybe. Okay, gold, oil. Now oil came off yesterday when I was looking at it initially. Let's come back to a daily for a moment. Okay, managed to bounce towards the end of the day then, because we were looking at this earlier on and it was selling off. It did eventually get a bit of a bid in, and off it went. So just slower movement now. See these long periods of consolidation, hard to be really trading from. I tend to look at this in the afternoons. It's where Western Texas that I'm looking at here. Tend to look at it much more in the afternoon, post 2 o'clock. Hard to really judge where this is going at the moment. However, it has put a higher low back here. Maybe if it can break up later on, and I will be looking at this later on and not now, it could get a bit more of a bounce there. Particularly if this risk back on sits, it does help oil somewhat. Right, that's pretty much it. Crypto, let's just run through briefly into the crypto world. Let me just bring my other charts in here, because I can look through a few. I'm not going to look at any massive detail. As I said before, it's quite difficult in terms of time wise, but I can give you a sort of a big picture. And for a lot of people, they're holding on to Bitcoin and etc. with a lot of hope, I think, at the moment. So yesterday saw the selling off happening. Even this morning with this sort of more sort of bullish look at some of these currencies, the other currencies, it's not looking particularly good at the moment. Ethereum, it's put a sort of a bearish swing pattern in there. Triggered the low of it. Maybe they'll pick up as the morning goes on, but Ethereum I'm still more sort of bullish on as a currency than these others. I think likes of Bitcoin, Ripple still waiting for the court case, and that could just dwell on, and it could be that its value down here relative to where it could get back to. And I mean, we saw what the sort of levels it could get, but this is a long-term sort of I wouldn't say investment for it by any means, but speculation, that's the word. A very long-term speculative trade in my book on the long side, but they are still curling around a little bit here at the moment, still looking soft. The longer they sit down here, I think there's just a more chance they'll with the patterns they've got. If we saw like a rounded bottom arriving, if they started bottoming out like this, well, I become more bullish. But if you look, a lot of these, they're sort of curling the other way, if anything. So they've sort of flagged and they're pushing through. We saw this with the Bitcoin. It's rolling over. It's just rolling back a little bit. So there you go. Anyway, that's it for me for this morning. I wish you an absolutely lovely weekend, and obviously football's on Sunday. Come on, England, and I'll speak to you on Monday. Take care. Bye for now.